I want you to just imagine your first week at a new job. You're sitting there staring at your monitor and you're desperately trying to find like the travel policy or maybe figure out your health
Oh,
benefit.
yeah. The classic onboarding maze.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And instead of getting answers, you're just met with this labyrinth of dead links on the intranet and, unanswered emails to HR.
It's incredibly frustrating. And the crazy thing is, it's just as bad for the people on the other side of that email.
Right. Because somewhere in that sleek corporate office, there's this highly paid human resources professional, probably with a master's degree in organizational psychology, right?
Oh, well, certainly.
And they were hired to design these world-class retention strategies. But instead, they're spending their 400th hour this year copy-pasting the exact same parental leave policy into an email. They're basically functioning as a manual search engine.
Yeah, it's a massive, completely invisible bottleneck. We bring all these talented people into organizations, and they're eager to contribute, and we immediately paralyze them with administrative quicksand.
Quicksand is the perfect word for it. And that brings us to today's source material, which is this really eye-opening presentation from Stryker AI Research Tech, Inc.
Right, the growing challenge in HR.
Yeah. And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack this crisis. We really want to look at how this failure to make trusted information instantly accessible is just, burning out HR teams, and how enterprise AI is stepping in to completely rewire the system.
It's a fundamental rewiring, yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this, because it is just wild to me that we have these supercomputers in our pockets, right? Like, we can track a pizza delivery on a live GPS map in real time.
Yeah, literally down to the street corner.
Exactly. But at work, we still wait days to find out if the company covers, vision insurance.
Well, to understand why the infrastructure is failing so badly, you really have to look at the daily mechanical reality of the HR department. There is this severe structural disconnect.
Between what's expected and what's actually possible.
Exactly. It's a disconnect between what leadership expects HR to do, what employees expect HR to deliver, and, the actual bandwidth the team has. The Stryker AI presentation highlights what they call the same 6 questions.
Oh, man. Yeah, the list that just haunts these teams every single day.
Relentlessly.
We're talking about things like, how much PTO do I have left? Or
Yeah.
what are our health benefits?
Where is the travel policy? Is a big one.
Right. And how do I update my direct deposit? What's the parental leave structure?
Yeah.
And, how do I submit a remote work request?
And if you look at those, none of those answers require strategic thought to deliver.
No, they're just static policies.
Exactly. The policies are static, yet because of how corporate data is archived, employees they cannot find the answers themselves. So what do? They submit an IT ticket.
Or they fire off an email.
Right, or ping someone on Slack. And that pulls a human being out of their actual workflow just to go fetch a document.
And the time drain here, the way the data quantifies the problem, is just staggering. It shows that HR staff spend 12+ hours a week just copy-pasting answers to these repetitive queries.
That's unbelievable.
12 hours. If you run the math on that,
Yeah.
that is over 624 hours a year per person, dedicated entirely to fetching information that already exists somewhere.
And you really have to contrast that 624 hours of wasted labor with what the modern employee actually expects today.
Right, the consumer-grade expectation gap.
Exactly. We live in a consumer-grade technological environment now. Your streaming service algorithmically predicts your movie preferences in milliseconds.
Oh, totally.
And employees carry that exact baseline expectation right into the office.
And the numbers back that up completely, by the way.
Yeah.
Like 78% of employees expect consumer app-level instant answers at work.
Which makes sense.
It does. And furthermore, 67% of them actively prefer self-service.
Yeah.
They don't actually want to bother a human being just to find out if they can expense a train ticket.
No, of course not. But the current reality they face. The average wait time for an internal HR response is 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours for a basic question.
Yeah. And that delay creates immense friction. Because leadership is demanding that HR drive culture, design retention programs, execute complex workforce planning.
But they can.
Right, because their day-to-day reality is just entirely consumed by this low-level policy distribution.
There's this great analogy that I think perfectly captures the absurdity of this situation. It's like, imagine hiring a top-tier Michelin star chef to completely revamp your restaurant.
Okay, yeah.
But instead of actually letting them design a brilliant menu or, run the kitchen, you mandate that they spend 30% of their shift in the back room just chopping onions.
That's exactly what's happening.
Right, you're taking these highly skilled professionals demanding world-class results and then just handing them a 50-pound sack of onions.
And the opportunity cost of chopping those onions is the real crisis here. But we have to examine why the information is so inaccessible in the first place. Like, why can't employees just look up the travel policy?
Because it's a maze. The corporate knowledge is fundamentally fragmented.
Yes, across massive data silos.
The presentation actually notes that answers are typically scattered across at least 5 different systems. So an employee has to navigate the HRS, the Human Resources Information System, and then maybe check some clunky corporate intranet.
Oh, those are the worst.
Right. And then they have to, dig through shared network drives, search obscure email threads from managers who left 3 years ago, and sift through random PDF policies.
And the result of all that digging is what they call search fatigue, because there's no single source of truth.
Right.
An employee might try searching the shared drive and they find a document titled Travel Policy Final V2.
Oh, I've seen that file name so many times.
We all have.
Yeah.
But they have no mechanism to verify if it's the current iteration or if it's just a draft from 2019.
So they just give up.
Exactly. They lose confidence in the system, abandon the search, and submit a ticket. And that behavior drives the volume directly back onto the HR team's desk.
Which just feeds this vicious cycle. And the data points out 2 really massive hidden costs here. First, employee trust erodes.
Yeah, significantly.
Because if you ask a crucial question about your health benefits and you hear absolutely nothing for 3 days, you stop viewing the company as a reliable partner.
You feel ignored.
Totally. And second, handling all these tickets consumes 30% of HR's total capacity. That is a huge operational tax that just steals time away from those high-value strategic impacts we talked about, like retention and culture building.
Now, a really common reaction from leadership when they see this data is to just request a better internal search bar.
Oh, sure.
They view this strictly as an IT tooling issue, like, oh, if people can't find documents, let's just buy a better search indexer.
Well, actually, wait, let me push back on that exact point because honestly, it seems logical, right? Shouldn't a company just build a better internal search bar? If I can search the entire internet in half a second, why is a company's internal data a 30% capacity crisis rather than just, a simple IT ticketing issue?
It's a great question, but traditional search architectures are fundamentally misaligned with what employees actually need. A standard internal search bar just relies on keyword matching. So if you type parental leave, the system retrieves a list of 10 documents that happen to contain that phrase.
Right.
It doesn't actually answer your question, it just gives you a reading assignment. You still have to open a 40-page legal PDF and decipher how, Clause 4B applies to your specific tenure at the company.
Ah, I see. So a search bar just points to a location. The employee still has to do all the comprehension and synthesis themselves.
Exactly.
And they don't want the PDF. They want to know, does my policy cover pediatric physical therapy in the state of New York?
Precisely.
Right.
Which is why the technological fix that Stryker AI highlights is so crucial. We are shifting away from document retrieval and moving toward AI-powered self-service that actually understands context.
And synthesizes actual answers.
Yes.
And just to be super clear to anyone listening who, tracks enterprise tech, we're not talking about those awful decision tree chatbots from a few years ago.
Oh, the ones where you just click buttons until it loops back to the start.
Yes, the absolute worst. No, the core mechanics here rely on NLU, natural language understanding. Because employees don't ask questions in rigid corporate terminology.
Right.
They type messy, plain language questions like, hey, how many days off do I have left before December?
And the NLU parses that unstructured, messy query and maps the intent directly to the company's policy bases. But the really critical architectural shift, the thing that prevents this from being a massive liability, is R.
Retrieval augmented generation. Because in a corporate environment, AI hallucinations are a catastrophic risk, right? If an AI generates a fake legal precedent or hallucinates that an employee has an extra week of paid time off, the liability is huge.
Oh, it's a legal nightmare.
So my understanding is that RAG acts as a strict guardrail here. The AI doesn't just guess or generate an answer from its vast generalized training data. It's like a defense attorney in a courtroom.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. The attorney is highly intelligent. They're capable of speaking really well, but they are legally forbidden from saying anything that isn't directly cited in the verified case file sitting right in front of them.
That captures the mechanism perfectly. The AI first retrieves the specific, verified company documents that are relevant to the prompt. Then, it uses its generative capabilities to synthesize a natural language answer, but strictly from the boundaries of those retrieved documents.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so if the answer is not in your verified data, the model does not guess. It totally eliminates AI hallucinations.
So what does it do if it can't find the answer?
It initiates an escalation protocol. The presentation outlines this workflow really clearly. Routine requests auto-resolved instantly. The AI handles the PTO balances, pay slips, standard benefits. But for complex edge cases, the system automatically escalates to a human HR staff member.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the employee experience? Like, if I ask a highly specific question about my unique parental leave situation, am I just going to get trapped in an endless chatbot doom loop?
What's fascinating here is how seamless that escalation to human staff actually is,
Okay.
because the AI is embedded right in the workflow. So when it hits a dead end, it doesn't just generate a blank support ticket and make you start over from scratch.
Oh, my goodness.
Right. It actually packages the entire context payload of the chat, what you asked, the specific nuances, the policies it already checked, and it routes that directly to the correct human HR specialist.
So the human takes over with full visibility.
Exactly. You never have to repeat yourself. And the outcome of this entire RE system is a 3 times faster time to answer across the department.
That is huge. And here's where it gets really interesting to me. Buying into this tech isn't just like buying a new spreadsheet software, right?
No, not at all.
It's literally like instantly onboarding a massive, hyper-efficient digital workforce that works 24/7. And the hard numbers in this presentation prove it. The real-world ROI is undeniable.
The scale of deployment at the enterprise level right now is just remarkable. Look at IBM, for example.
Yeah, there are Ask HR assistants.
Yes, it currently handles 2.1 million employee conversations annually.
2.1 million.
Just think about the sheer volume of human capital that would be required to manually process 2.1 million inquiries. It's staggering.
And the auto-solve benchmarks from other companies are just as wild. The sources cite Vidyard hitting a 56% auto-resolve rate. Gusto is at 55%. ThoughtSpot is at 50.2%.
It's transformative.
Imagine if tomorrow more than half of your entire department's repetitive workload just vanished.
And we also have to look beyond just internal policy questions, too, because this technology fundamentally transforms the entire employee lifecycle, starting right at recruitment.
Oh, the Unilever case study.
Yes, it's a perfect example of this mechanical shift. They deployed AI recruiting at massive scale. They standardized their screening criteria and operated at a volume that humans simply cannot match.
The results they got are incredible. They saved 50,000 recruiter hours annually
50,000 hours.
and cut costs by £1 million.
You're-
Here is the most crucial metric, I think. By removing the human scheduling delays and, standardizing the top-of-funnel screening, they actually increased diversity by 16%.
Wow.
And they hit a 96% candidate completion rate. Or look at Chipotle. The data shows they used AI to cut their hiring process down from 12 days to just 4.
And the mechanics of how that 12 to 4-day reduction happens is pure competitive advantage. Because in a tight labor market, top talent does not wait around.
Nope, they're gone.
Right. If your competitor makes an offer in 4 days because their AI handled the initial screening, scheduling, and background checks instantly, while your human team is taking 12 days just to, coordinate calendar invites, you will lose the best candidates every single time.
Every time. And the macro market projections really reflect this urgency. According to the research, AI usage in HR surged from 58% to 72% between 2024 and 2025.
That's a massive jump for a single year.
It is. And looking toward 2026 and beyond, the market is projected to rocket from $6.53 billion in 2025 to over $59.22 billion by 2035.
It is critical, however, to notice the adoption gap hidden in those numbers.
Oh.
Because currently, 83% of large enterprises have deployed this technology, compared to only 42% of small to medium businesses. So the massive organizations are rapidly pulling away in terms of operational efficiency.
Well, the financial bottom line is just impossible for them to ignore. I mean, the baseline average cost per hire is $5,475.
Right.
And AI cuts that cost per hire by 30 to 40%, and it cuts the time to hire by up to 70%. When you aggregate the auto-resolve savings with that recruiting efficiency, companies are seeing a staggering 340% ROI in just 18 months.
With ROI metrics like that, it really begs the question of why every single organization hasn't already implemented this.
Well, let's explore that. Because despite the massive ROI, Deploying this isn't as simple as flipping a switch, is it?
Not at all.
Getting to that 340% ROI requires navigating an absolute minefield. The presentation makes it very clear you cannot just buy a license, point the AI at your shared drive, and walk away.
Attempting to do so would be catastrophic. Deploying enterprise AI requires a really strict 70-day phased deployment approach.
Right, the 70-day plan.
Yeah, it begins with an AI inventory and readiness phase to evaluate the infrastructure, followed by a bounded use case pilot to test the accuracy. And then comes the most critical step, governance mapping.
Governance mapping is where a lot of this succeeds or fails, right?
Absolutely.
Because you have to map data access permissions directly to the AI's outputs. Like, if you just feed the AI everything in the company, a junior employee could theoretically type, "Hey, what is the CEO's bonus structure?"
Oh,
And the AI would just happily synthesize the private payroll documents.
Exactly. You have to ensure the AI strictly respects the existing organizational hierarchy and security clearances. Only after governance mapping is totally secured can you move to a scaled rollout.
But alongside those technical hurdles, there are massive human barriers, too. The data shows 60% of HR leaders cite a severe skills gap. Like, they simply don't possess the technical literacy to manage AI systems yet.
Which is a huge problem, and another 52% cite data quality as their primary roadblock. Because if your underlying legacy documents are contradictory or outdated, RAG will just accurately synthesize terrible information.
Right, garbage in, garbage out. And then, of course, there is the existential fear. The data shows 34% of employees fear job displacement due to this technology. This requires some deep change management.
Yes, leadership has to provide absolute role clarity alongside the rollout.
Well, let me just challenge the optimistic view of AI in the workplace for a second here.
Sure.
We are looking at data that explicitly says this AI cuts time to hire by 70% and reclaims 30% of HR's capacity by auto-solving tickets. Let's be brutally honest. If it does all that, are those 34% of employees who fear job displacement actually right?
Yeah.
Like, is this just a stealthy way for executives to downsize HR departments, save on payroll, and, boost quarterly earnings?
It is a completely valid concern, and history is full of examples where automation led directly to headcount reductions.
Right.
However, the structural dynamic of modern HR is pretty unique. Think back to your Michelin star chef analogy. HR departments have rarely been staffed adequately enough to manage both the administrative burden and the strategic mandates.
They've just been buried in the onions.
Entirely buried. Building dynamic culture, managing complex employee relations, designing upskilling programs, all that strategic work has been historically neglected because the team was drowning in repetitive tickets.
So the goal isn't to fire the chef.
Exactly. The strategic goal of this specific AI deployment is not to fire the chef. It is to finally let the chef cook.
I love that.
Organizations that utilize this technology merely to downsize will completely miss the actual competitive advantage, which is shifting that human capital toward high-value, empathetic, strategic work.
That makes a lot of sense. The value isn't in paying fewer people. The value is in what those people can finally accomplish when they aren't functioning as search engines.
Exactly.
But even if a company successfully navigates the technical deployment and, calms those internal human fears, they still have to survive the compliance landscape.
Right.
And the legal dangers outlined in this document are terrifying.
Multi-framework compliance is no longer optional. It is the absolute baseline for entry now.
The list of requirements is so dense. At a minimum, a vendor needs SOC2 Type 2 compliance.
Right.
And then you have lay. Like, if your HRAI touches an employee's health benefits or wellness data, you fall under HIPAA jurisdiction. And the penalties there scale up to $1.5 million per violation category.
And if your organization has any European employees, the complexity compounds immediately with the GDPR. Article 22 of the GDPR explicitly restricts automated decisions that have legal or significant effects on individuals,
which directly impacts recruiting AI. If an AI model screens a resume and auto-rejects a candidate, that is an automated employment decision. Under Article 22, you are legally required to provide human oversight and explainability.
You can't just say the algorithm said no.
Exactly. Because neural networks often function as black boxes, but you have to mechanically explain why it rejected them to ensure no biased parameters were used.
And building on that, the new EU AI Act takes full enforcement in August 2026. Under this act, HR AI used for hiring or performance evaluation is officially classified as high risk.
High risk, wow.
Yeah, and the compliance requirements for high-risk systems are intense. The penalties for violating the EU AI Act are devastating, up to 35 million euros.
35 million euros. That's a company-ending fine for many organizations. It completely changes how procurement departments have to operate. The sources highlight that 77% of enterprises now even factor the AI vendor's country of origin into their purchasing due to geopolitical data risks.
Yeah, things like the U.S. Cloud Act make where the physical servers are located a critical risk factor. It requires a vendor ecosystem built on role-based permissions and heavy encryption. You have to secure the pipeline before you can even begin to reap the efficiency rewards.
So, synthesizing everything we've unpacked today from the Stryker AI presentation, the human resources function is undergoing this massive, completely necessary evolution.
Definitely.
It's transitioning away from a department bogged down by copy-pasting the same answers across 5 different siloed systems into a strategic powerhouse.
Mm.
And it's backed by heavily compliant RG-driven AI that guarantees instant answers.
It really represents a fundamental rewiring of the operational delivery mechanism. It closes that expectation gap between the consumer apps employees use at home and the tools they use at work. It reclaims millions of wasted hours.
Right. It's a total paradigm shift.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have spent this entire conversation analyzing how AI is poised to take over every single routine, administrative, and data-driven task in human resources.
Right.
If that genuinely happens, if AI successfully absorbs all that mechanical friction, what exactly will the strictly human part of human resources look like in 10 years?
Oh, that's a great question.
Will HR professionals essentially become workplace psychologists? Will they be dedicated culture architects, dealing entirely in empathy, conflict resolution, and human motivation? It's a fascinating horizon to consider.
It really is. It may be the ultimate elevation of the profession, finally allowing them to focus entirely on the human element.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you find yourself stuck waiting days for an email reply about a travel policy or just staring at a dead link on your intranet, you will know exactly what mechanical failures are happening behind the scenes and how close the enterprise world is to fixing them. Take a fresh look at your own workplace tools through this new lens. We'll catch you on the next one.